Hello everyone, this is Auggie from XGOT-RC, and I'm here to talk about something that we had several reports of people having issues with this sensor being used on gassers. And since we did test ourselves and we couldn't replicate the problem, we couldn't figure out what the problem was. Now, when I installed the Evo, I did have the problem that people reported. So I was able to finally replicate the problem and figure out what the problem was. Keep in mind that this is only for gasser applications, not for nitros. Nitros, this works perfectly fine. So here we are. So this is, this is a sensor. Notice that the sensor has the front of the sensor is narrow and the back of the sensor wide. So if you look at it, this is the narrow side. This side is sensitive to south poles of a magnet. The back side here is sensitive to the north poles. So this is what happens, right? You have, let me go here. Okay, so this is a flywheel. All right, so the flywheel in a gasser has a double magnet. In other words, the magnet has two fronts, the south and the north. If you look at it on the inside, let's make this one transparent, you'll notice that there is actually a magnet like this inside that has the north side and the south side. So the problem occurs if in some cases, like for instance, my Neos did not have that problem. That's why I've been flying my gassers with this sensor and without a problem. So when I tried with the Evo, I did have the problem that people had reported from me. So this is what happens. As I told you before, the south here is the one that senses the south pole when it passes in front of it, and passes like that and turns the output on the pin, on the signal pin, on, and is read by your RPM sensor on the RPM input on your flybarless unit. All right. Now the problem is that apparently because they are like this, when you pass and it passes very fast, then the time between the S being presented in front of the sensor and the N, which is the one that turns it off, it's too short for some Neos or some. The Evo, obviously, it is not. It didn't work. So what is the solution for that? Well, simple. So here we have south and immediately north. So this is too short. So what you have to do is very simple. You simply take this thing and put it this way. See what I'm saying? Keep the same pins in the same holes, only put it this way. Okay. So what happens now? Now the south passes, which this side now, as you can see, only it's only sensitive to the north. Okay, so it listens to the north. So what happens is that now we have the south passing. Okay, here you can see when it's passing in front of it. Okay, the south is passing first, and then the north, which is the one that triggers it and it stays on for a little while longer. It's not shut down by the next magnet, so now it can be read without a problem. So finally, I was able to replicate the problem, and I figured out what the problem was. So the only thing that you need to do is flip this over, like I said, like that. From here, just simply unsolder it and put it back down here. Now, following these graphics, I'm going to show you a video of how it's done in real life so that you can see how easy it is to get this off and put it back in. So that's all you need to do. Once you do that, you simply, the sensor now becomes active with the end passing in front, and it continues being on for a while until it decays, So it doesn't need to. It will not be so short that in some cases it will be not read by the. So that's why, by the way, when you are doing this explains, because some of the things that I ask the people is like, okay, but do you get the signal, the pulse when you are put it on the setup mode? And people say, yeah, I do get the green light and everything else, But once I started and start getting, you know, idle, I can do it. It works on idle and everything else. But once I go idle up or bank 2 or bank 3, then it stops reading it. And that's because the RPMs were high enough so that this time between the south and the north was way too short. That's why you could sense the readings, you know, the setup, as well as work with the lower RPMs. But once the RPMs got to a point that this was passing way too fast, then the pulse was too short for the Neo to read it in time. So like I said, when you have this here, which is the north facing the magnets, what happens is that this south does nothing, and then the north turns it on and continues on, and then decays normally. So it's not a problem, and you will be able to have your thing work at any RPMs. And at the end of the video, I'm going to show you how I did it, how I'm reading. You guys know that I fly my Gasser at, you know, insane RPMs. I love it. So I think I did it like 2100 or something like that RPMs. So it is working at any speed. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and let's continue and show you how it's done, the actual process of doing that. Okay, so I'll be back. First of all, this is what you will need. You will need a solder, a solder wick, which is a piece of braided copper that allows you to extract solder, your sensor, and some way to hold the sensor in place while you work. Right, first of all, you need to hold the sensor in place so they can hold it while you pull the board off of it. So first thing you want to do is add some, you know, put a lot of flux, and then add additional solder to it. Okay, why is that? Because we want to be able to heat up the whole thing fully. And once you do that, simply start wiggling it until it comes off. See that? So it came off. Use a wide tip so that you can heat them up all at the same time, okay? One of these chisel ones is really good for that kind of work, okay? All right, so now you have your board off. And the solder wick, which is this solder wick, okay, which is this piece of copper that has a solid flux in it, will be used to pull the excess solder from the sensor by holding it. We'll see. Okay, let me move this away for a second. Okay, the idea is to hit it and hold it there so it sucks the solder off of the holes. As you can see, it's becoming silver instead of copper because it's being thinned by the solder. Okay, as you can see now, there is the holes are now open because I use this, and see how it absorbed all of the solder, so it sucked it out. That's why it's called solder wick. And using the same solder wick, you know, cut the part that's already used, come back to the sensor, and clean the sensor the same way. Just use that and let it suck. Hold on, you're not seeing this. Okay, here. So use that, let it suck the excess solder from the tips. Okay. Okay, now if we look at the sensor, okay, you will see that the sensor is now cleaned, and you can now use it to insert it without any problem. Yeah. So I want to clean it. Okay, so we have the sensor here, as you can see it. Okay. All right, and now what you do is, okay, remember when it was connected before, it was connected like this, right? This is the way it was connected before. It was connected like this, okay? Like this. And if you see this, you see that the smaller side is facing the magnet. Okay, see the smaller side. Now what we need to do is simply take this off, flip it without, so you don't see the same pins that are connected here are going to be connected again in the other side. Okay, so there's no, make sure the electrical is the same. Okay, see? So now the white side, as you can see now, the white side is facing outwards towards the magnet. Okay, and the small side is on the inside now. And remember, it is going to be on the side that has no components. Okay, so like that. Okay, so we hold it like that, and now we add again flux. Okay, and then we have to add some solder to it. Okay, to make sure that there is no bridges, add a lot more solder flux so that the surface tension separates the solder beads. I just saw it in the, so it is connected, only there is no solder bridges. Okay, so that's all we have to do. Okay, and once that's done, okay, so that's it. Now you have this again facing out, you know, the white side facing out. By the way, if you want to get the correct sensor for the Zenoah Gassers, the one that you need to get is the one that ends on 0268. So the part number is AAVXG0268. That is the X-Guard super sensor for the Zenoah Gassers. Okay, here is, you can see the signal here, off with the N off, and then on with the S. So the off is the N and the on is the S. First comes the N and then the S. So this rotates this way. So the now the pulse stays where it's supposed to. All right, so if you guys prefer us to do it for you, you can send it back to us and we will do the switch of the sensor for you. But it's so simple that, you know, it's not really worth it. It's only, as you could see, it's a very simple operation, you know. And, well, all right, so don't forget to click on the subscribe button and also click on the bell there so you can get the notifications whenever we have a new video. All right, happy flying and goodbye.